Steve Chapman, thanks for being here.
Thanks, man. Good to have me. Good
Mate,
to be here.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
Good to be here. Mate, it definitely is. You have had so much success in business at a relatively young age. How old are you now?
32 now.
32. 32-year-old dad, second on the way, I believe.
Yeah, next one's due in December.
Oh, wow.
And first Harvey's 14, 15-month-old now.
Wow, do you know what you're having next?
Yeah, it's a girl.
Oh,
So
wow.
one of each, so.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you, man. I'm more scared about having a girl than I was a boy. I didn't have sisters. I went to an all-boys school. Like, I think for me, it brought up a lot more about like what type of world is she coming into? Like, how am I going to be as a girl dad? Like, I think it forced me, and I'm kind of like going in with a bit more like nervous energy than with little Harvey, which I felt like is just a little mini me.
Yeah, see, I'm not at that stage of life yet. Like, I hope close. I get really excited for family. I get married in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, you
and
do?
So, yeah.
Congrats, man.
Thank you. Cheers. And I feel like listeners of the show are sick of hearing it, but I'm so excited about
Yeah.
it that it's a very exciting stage of life. But I feel as you get towards kids, you think about the natural stress of you got to look after them, and there's so much responsibility, and all of a sudden you're not the most important person in the world.
100%.
And there's all of that responsibility and I guess change that comes with that. But you never really think about the difference in how you feel about, like, how do you bring up a little girl when you're a man? Obviously you have your wife, your partner, but it's just a different dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I just don't want to do a bad job at the end of the day. Like, I think most parents go into it wanting to like set their kids up for the best version of their life that they possibly can. And for me, I felt, because I've walked Harvey's, potential path, and I've been a young boy, and I've been a young man, I've been in adolescence, and there's probably a few more scars of getting that wrong that I can pass on to him, and hopefully he doesn't make all the same mistakes I made, but equip him to be okay even if he does make all the mistakes. Where, I think genetically, there is difference in society. There's some difference there between a little girl and a little boy, and I'm excited for the challenge. It's just, I think it's going to be, for me personally, more of a challenge.
It's interesting to ask you this. So we're talking about, that role of being a father, and I feel like when you become a parent, maybe it's kind of like a hard line in the sand, but you feel like you cross into proper adulthood.
Yeah, I think there's nothing that will mature you quicker than having a kid.
Because even meeting you today, like, we're very similar age. I'll be 30 next year, you're 32. So we're so close in age. But because of what you've done, I feel like I'm sitting down with someone who has far more life experience than I do.
It's a bit more grey hair, probably.
Yeah, mate, I'll tell you what, I've got a few coming through, let me tell you.
Yeah, mine sped up pretty quickly with kids and a new business.
So do you feel like, from a maturity standpoint, can you look back at you, 16 months ago before Harvey was here and a part of your world, and recognise the difference in your personality?
I think so. I've said it before, but I think it's true where you said it before. It's like you're now not long the most important person in your world.
Yeah.
And I'm completely cool with that, and I love that. But we're still human. We still have flaws, and sometimes I forget what I'm trying to give to my family and business and community. And sometimes in my worst state, I'm like trying to get something from them. I'm trying to get love. I'm trying to get security. I'm trying to get comfort. I'm trying to get admiration. And often when we try and search and try and grab for something, it's like, actually that's what blocks it. And I just went to New Zealand and did some good meditation and some good reflection, some good insights with some other entrepreneurs. And that was the most compelling switch that I kind of keep needing to remind myself of, like, I'm there to give, like, I'm there to fill up my cup as much as I can with health and wisdom, and like be the best version of me, so then I can show up even better as a parent and as a partner and as a business leader and, as someone in the community. So, man, like, on my best day, I'm enlightened and I'm a great dad and a great partner. And then, we get tired and stressed and frustrated, and we can slip into those old patterns still.
You just touched on something there. All of these potential imperfections we have as human beings, where we're searching for things that maybe at times we don't feel we have or can't recognise in ourselves. Question I've been pondering on a lot lately, that was prompted to me like a week or two ago, is what are you still trying to prove to yourself? I wonder, like, you built Shine to $60 million in retail sales. You walked away from that business. You're building again. So you've had all of this success that you can point to prove that you are capable and you can achieve great things out in the world. But what is it that you're still trying to prove to yourself?
It's a deep question. I think I'm scared still of, like, not, let's say, living up to my potential. And I want to now be the like leader and example of someone that like Harvey can learn from example, like not just what I say, but what I do. Of like, they are so like kids conscious and aware of like every little interaction between me and Tay. Like you want to show him how to be a good man, like be a good partner, like show his mum lots of love and care, show him how to conflict resolution and how to like maintain patience and compassion and things like that through arguments. So I think for me, like the stakes have increased in terms of the pressure that I'm like, oh, like we're all going to make mistakes, but like he's going to absorb a bunch of our worst mistakes. Like he's going to be the best and the worst versions of us. And, you know, I'm trying to like, as much as I can, pass on the best before he like learns my worst.
Do you feel like you had the best passed on to you? You know, what was your upbringing like?
Look, I'm a believer we get like given our gaps and our gifts from our parents. And often what we don't get from our parents is what we try and search out in the world and kind of give to others because we have that inside. And then sometimes our gifts, like my dad, for example, very friendly, very social, very, you know, he's a good sales guy, he's a good like people person. You know, he was a decent athlete. He was a hard work ethic kind of guy. Ended up being drafted in the military and kind of learned that when 18, went to Vietnam. And I think that toughened him up pretty quickly. And my mum, super loving, caring, passionate, nurturing. I think she, you know, taught me that the world is safe and it's comfortable and I can kind of like go out there and get muddy and try and chase and achieve my goals. And I still come back to a clean towel and a, you know, warm house and that kind of stuff. So, you know, very, very grateful for my parents, you know, but my dad was he the world's best communicator at emotions, and would he, you know, confront stuff on, or would he avoid and kind of not really talk about it? And definitely. And I probably over index on the opposite. If I go like attachment styles, and probably more on like the want to fix it right now instead of like avoid it and never try and talk about it again. Where my mum's, you know, probably sometimes a little bit nervous, a little bit worried, a little bit like more on the like the anxious spectrum, where I'm probably more on the like take risks and bet big and what's the worst that can happen.
Let me ask, you know, the take risks thing, I asked a guest of the podcast, Daly Cherry, who built Future Golf.
Oh, sick.
I asked Daly, you know, how kids changed his, essentially like his appetite for risk. And he told me a great story about how as a young man, he watched his dad carry around this brown manila folder pretty much for his whole childhood. And this folder contained the business plans for an Indian restaurant that he wanted to launch, but never did. And he's like, I could see as a kid and now understand more so as a man, the cost that it had on him, having him not actually pursue his goals. And he's like, so for me being a dad, I knew that the risk was worth it in order to be able to show my boys that, hey, this is really important that you pursue things that mean something to you. So for you, you know, we all have different experiences as we've touched on. Has your appetite for risk changed as a business owner with, you know, a family now to look after?
It's such an interesting question. Like when we found out we were having Harvey, it was like my last day of Shine was the same day we actually found out that we're pregnant.
Talk about a washing machine of emotion.
I think the universe gives you exactly what you need. And, you know, we had this thoughts of going to Europe and just taking some time off and chilling and like playing and having fun for the first time, because I'd just been so locked in on work for like the last 7 years before that, or decade with my experience just before Shine. So, you know, at the exact moment I was like grasping for freedom, like I got given ultimate responsibility in the form of a child. And then I was like, oh, it's the worst time. You know, how am I going to, I didn't have any income coming in anymore. Like I just didn't have really a plan what I was going to do. But smart people around me and kind of wise friends were like, you've got 9 months, like if you find out and then the baby's not there tomorrow, you've got 8 months at that point, or probably 7 months. You know, knowing me, I can do a lot in 7 months. And it probably made me realize like, oh, I'm a powerful creator. Like I can go out and create value in the world. And I think at the worst case scenario, we're so blessed in Australia. We're so blessed with parents. We're so blessed with friends and support networks and things like that. Like the worst case scenario is actually not that bad. Like we go live with our parents for a little bit, you know, we get a corporate job, you know, like that sounds so bad to me as the entrepreneur, but like, that's just the reality. Like we work part-time jobs, we work casually. Like I think there's such a difference between the dream lifestyle we all aim for and then just like the worst case scenario, and it's not that bad. It's just not the dream lifestyle, and the gap might be really bad. So I think if we just adjust expectations at what stage we can actually achieve, I think aim for the stars and kind of go all in on for it. And then, you know, in 9 months we like built Hyro and like launched it and raised some money, and you know, now that's a multi-million-dollar business in less than 12 months. So
yeah, wow.
It's been a journey of like, yeah, I could have got a corporate job, but at the same time it's like, why not go for it? And I think I back myself. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So I often contemplate, I'm not, I don't know if I'd identify as entrepreneurial, but I identify as creative. And so I'm always trying to create something a little bit different, which is probably why I started this. I love conversation. I love human story. I love what it can do for people. And so podcast was kind of an easy, low barrier route into that. And I've fallen in love with it in the process. Yeah, it feels entrepreneurial at times. But then I don't know that I necessarily have a propensity to want to manage people. And that tends to come along with, you know, entrepreneurship. But I wonder for you whether you ever contemplate, because I know I do, if I wish I had a bit of a simpler mind. Like, there's days where I think, man, I wish I could enjoy the simplicity of like going and doing a craft. And I'm at times painfully aware of what I feel like I know I can do, what I'm not doing. How do you balance that?
Man, it's a tough question. Like if there was a pill I could give you that kind of, let's call it like baseline anxiety of like just kind of needing to do things and needing to think and be, you know, your brain's always on. If there's a pill that you could take that turns that off, I don't think it would take. Like I wouldn't take the pill. I'd rather all the creativity or the upside, all the like potential of the world, and go for it, even though it just comes with like a little bit more suffering potentially. I think for me, I play it in two ways. I always try and remember like it's a game, and we're playing for fun at the end of the day. Like it should feel like play, and play for me is this like pursuit towards growth, pursuit to become a better player, pursuit to win whatever game you're trying to play, and then know if you're playing like an infinite game or a finite game. And like we don't, for example, win at health. Like you want to stay healthy. You don't want to like win in relationships. You want to stay in relationships. So there's like some stuff just doesn't have this like scorecard that you need to kind of get to the end of. You want to stay playing as best as you can and play as well as you can. So like health, relationships, and for me, business. Like I love business. I love it so much that I want to keep playing it for the rest of my life. So like there will be like these micro games of companies or brands or moments of times with people or deals we do that have, you know, an annual financial year reporting period on it. But my macro game is I want to play as many games in business with as many great people over time. So that feels fun. And it's like you playing Halo and you like want to play Halo for 16 hours a day on Xbox because you love playing Halo. And if you can like just perspective shift that into some of your crafts and what you do on a daily basis, then you're having fun with it. You're smiling. You're like going, how great could we make this? Like how much fun could we have with this? And that's infectious. And I think that, to your point around people, like that then bleeds into the people you're managing. And then if you're trying to help them play this magical game of their life and their career and their work, then you've got this like beautiful box of creators and everyone's just like going for it.
I actually like the way that you frame that, because it makes me think that maybe the simplicity isn't in doing something that's lower stakes, but rather in identifying the one or two emotions that you want to play on and continue to exist in and around that, right? So as you say, play, like it makes me think, is that the filter then that you filter decisions in business through? Like if I do this, will it still feel like play?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I filter from a higher perspective through the mission. And for me, the mission is like, I want to build the most loved hydration brand in the world. And then decisions are clear of like, is that going to make me closer towards my goal of building the most loved hydration brand or like away from it? Okay. So if it comes down to product or consumers or customer feedback or brand or marketing ideas or like whatever it may be, team hires, it's like, is this going to help build the love or kind of not build the love? And the biggest, and from a hydration brand perspective. So that's the filter I make decisions on business perspective. But in terms of like what games do I play, I read a book recently, 4,000 Weeks.
Love it.
Yeah, really, really good. And just a good, simple reminder of like, we're not here forever. we can't do it all. Like we literally just don't have enough time for our brains to solve all the things that we want to solve. So it's like not saying no to the obvious stuff. Like getting asked to do a telesales phone call or doing some, you know, like something that you clearly don't want to do, saying no to that isn't the game. Like that's pretty easy. I think saying no to the like the moderately and like actually kind of exciting things. Like for me doing podcasts, I have to be like quite deliberate about, because sometimes they're good value, sometimes they're not. I do want to serve community. So like that's why I generally will prioritize this over other things. But like there's a bunch of stuff that I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. Like a golf day, or that sounds fun, like a ski trip, or that sounds fun, like I catch up with friends. Like I need to kind of filter them to making sure I'm getting enough time on business, community and family, and like showing up as a father, showing up as the kind of leader in the company as I want. And it means you got to say no to a bunch of stuff that you kind of want to say yes to.
It strikes me that you're maybe similar to me in your personality trait. Do you find it hard to say no to things, no to people more so than anything?
100%, yeah. I want to give as much as I can because I know how much people have given me. And if I've got a chance to meet someone for 20 minutes and give them some advice that could change the trajectory of their life or business, like I feel the pressure to be like, yeah, I should do that. Like I want to do that. Yeah. And I feel great afterwards. But then at the end of the day or end of the week, I'm like, oh, I didn't get these 4 really important things done because I spent time here on this phone call, time here with this podcast, time here with this keynote, time here with this networking event. And it's just balance. I think you just got to like make sure you get enough of the most important shit done so you can then free up some time to do the other kind of give back stuff as well.
One thing that I've been really conscious on, you know, my old man used to always say to me, you say yes to everything. You know, you need to be careful how much of your energy you spend on, you know, saying yes to please other people. Because I used to say yes to every catch up, yes to every social gathering, because I didn't want to let people down. Not that my presence is so important that without it, people would be devastated. But just because you're like, oh, I want to be the best friend I can be. I want to be the best person I can be to everyone in my life. And I probably have a bit of a people-pleasing complex naturally. But then one thing I've become very presently aware of is that when my soon-to-be wife, Soph, come into my life, and I had someone who was now the single most important person in my world, who was beside me, when opportunities would come up and I'd instinctively say yes, and then I had to remember, hold on, if I say yes to that, I'm taking away time from us, from our relationship. There's now somebody who suffers at the consequences of me being a people pleaser, because it's often the people or the things we care most about that we take for granted the easiest.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's been such a lesson to figure out, how do I walk the line between, you know, I don't need to be at home 24/7, and Soph doesn't expect that of me. But how do I make sure that in trying to be the best person I can be to everyone else, I don't rob the really close, important people and the important tasks in my life of my attention?
100%.
That is so challenging.
100%. And for me, I've had to come to that realization recently, even with, you know, like I do a bunch of like marathons and like fitness kind of journeys and endurance races, and, you know, training for like a sub-3 marathon is very time committing. And for me, I look at health as a bucket that gives me energy. But if you're like going to be like an amateur elite athlete, that like takes energy. You're drained after a 36K long run. Like you don't have the energy to then give to your son or your partner or your business because you're wrecked. Like you're doing 20 hours a week of training. Like that is going to take away from your ability to show up in areas that you want to. So like I've have to like balance that as well, going like I do health to give me energy. I'm consciously knowing this isn't giving me like optimal energy right now because it's giving me, so like it's taken more than it's given in that regard. So what is it giving? It's like showing that I can hit a goal and pursue it and show my son that. It's showing that I've got the discipline to kind of follow through with the training plan. It's showing that I've got, from a brand perspective, like buy-in and kudos in the community that we serve around running. It's showing me that there's like travel opportunities and things like that around marathons and activations that we can do from a family perspective as well as a brand. So like there's a roundabout way that it ends up serving other parts of my life, but it's a very fine line of like, and then where's ego stop and where does like service start?
Can I read you something? You've given me the perfect segue to read this. So there's an idea that kind of come to the forefront of my mind last year. I was reading about Ernest Shackleton, who led the endurance expedition.
Yeah, love it.
And there was an ad that he put out in the paper. At least this is rumoured. Whether it's true or not, I don't think they've found the actual real ad, but they've found copies of it. And essentially the ad was something like, journey to Antarctica, unlikely return, but essentially honour and glory.
If successful, like honour and glory.
Right, which is a very interesting
Death
marketing
likely,
tactic.
yeah.
Death likely. And it made me have this thought, which I wrote something about, which I've asked a bunch of entrepreneurs, because I see that in the modern world, we spoke about a few of them off camera before who were doing great content online. Marcus Milione with Minted, George Heaton with Represent and 24/7, yourself in this space, Nick Bear. A lot of these people who are on the entrepreneurial journey are also on the ultra endurance journey. And so I wrote something last year. Are ultra marathons and entrepreneurship to the modern man what the endurance expedition was to Shackleton and his men? It's no secret that a large cohort of modern men are struggling. Their life, as they see it, lacks meaning. They are directionless without any goals or aims, and the evidence is in the scary statistics that represent men's mental health issues. It's why I believe entrepreneurship and ultra-endurance sports are more popular than ever. The challenge of committing yourself to something that requires you to step into uncharted waters without any guarantee of success, and more often than not, the high likelihood of failure. In the event that you do succeed, however, you are recognised as an outlier, the uncommon amongst common men. Do you think that recognition is what most people in this space are searching for?
I think we've got a lot of unanswered questions of ourselves, like what can we really achieve? Like how far can we push it, our body and mind? And our personalities are like drawn to the challenge of it and trying to figure it out and answer the questions. I think with entrepreneurship, it is at like crazy unknown of like, where does this event and venture and lead us? And entrepreneurship means like to undertake, and it means to venture into the unknown effectively. And I think, for example, your podcast, like you don't know where this is going to go, but you kind of like want to pick a direction and you want to like take some steps towards that direction and ultimately turn an idea that did not exist in anyone else's mind to like a real thing that's now detached from your mind, that we can both look at objectively and say like, that's a thing. It's an entity in this world that didn't exist because of your hand and your craft. And I think it's the same for like, what type of life do we want to build? What type of like piece of art do we want to create? And then like, what do we want to show for it? Like on the endurance side, on the business side, on the family side, it's probably like having a kid is like mostly suffering. Like 99% of it is like from like a purely like physical perspective of like low sleep, you get sick all the time, you're changing nappies and diapers and they're crying all the time, and like you're just kind of patiently consoling them, and impacts the stress of relationship. And like it's for like the first 1 to 2 to 3 years, like it's pretty hard work. You get these beautiful magic moments of joy, which make all of it worth it. But like entrepreneurship's the same thing. It's like mostly it's like average to at best like like slightly enjoyable moments of activities of customer service and manufacturing issues and supply chain. And you get these magic moments of, again, like an influencer comes on board and posts your product, or an investor lands and your cash in the account feels nice, or you hit a certain sales target in from a people or a sales perspective. But I think, again, it's the same for endurance athletes. It's like it's mostly long runs and intervals and poor sleep and cramping. And yeah, it's like for like the one moment when you finish it and say that I could do it, like it's a pretty sick, twisted mind that wants to do that kind of stuff, which apparently I've got the symptoms for. It's
interesting. You mentioned before, like the thing that maybe scares you the most is not fulfilling potential. Right. I used to always think of fulfilling potential as there are a bunch of things I need to do in order to get there. But recently a reframe, I've spoken about a couple of times on the podcast, so please, for the listeners, excuse you hearing it again, but I feel like you'd like this.
Yeah.
Had a sales trainer come into my office. My day job is I sell houses. And he come into our office and he was talking to us about a bunch of our systems and things that we have in place. And he said, I want to share a story with you. And the story he wanted to share with us was the story of the statue of David, which I have on my left arm.
Oh, nice.
I love what it symbolizes. To me, it symbolized at the point in my life in which I got it, this human being, this story of overcoming something that is greater than yourself, that is perceived to be greater than yourself, and proving that you're capable. And I love that. But now the story has another meaning. So he explained to us that when Michelangelo was contracted with sculpting the statue of David, he was one of many who had been given the task of turning what was an imperfect piece of marble. The grain was imperfect, and it wasn't necessarily the best piece of stone to carve and to sculpt. But they wanted him to create the biblical hero of David to hang from the ceiling of a state building. And so he takes this stone, he takes it away for a couple of years, and he starts sculpting away at David. When he brings David back, it's far greater and more magnificent than anyone could have expected. In fact, it was too heavy to hang from the ceiling of his state building. So they decided to put it at the entrance of the Palazzo Vecchio in Florence. Now, once this statue is unveiled, this woman who's been involved in the process sees it and just bursts out into tears. She's like, this is unbelievable. I can't believe you created something so magnificent from that imperfect piece of stone. And Michelangelo says to this lady in response, he says, I always saw David in the stone. I just had to remove everything that wasn't him. And it made me think about the idea of fulfilling potential in a different perspective. Like, maybe our potential is kind of destined for us, but we have to remove every bit of friction and resistance that stops us from getting there. That's part of the journey. 100%. And so I kind of look at it from two different perspectives now. So if you apply what I'm calling the Michelangelo effect to your life, what are the things that you recognize right now that probably aren't congruent with the kind of success that you want to have?
Yeah, I love that story. It's so obvious to see that in like a baby or like a child. Like, they're perfect. And they're born with this perfectness and innocence and purity. And that's why there's this like such unconditional love, and it's so unquestioned why it's unconditional. It's funny, if you're in a relationship, you know, like, and you say you love each other and you kind of like have that like all in love, which I believe. And then you see the mother with the child and you're like, oh, that's a whole nother level of love. Like, because I still get in trouble if I do something wrong. Like, there's still some conditions there where Harvey can like throw shit at the wall and he's still very much loved and no questions asked. And I think we develop as humans like these attachments and beliefs, and we got told we're not good enough, and we get bullied, and we start having these insecurities, and we're aware of our own nakedness, if you think about the Genesis story. And I think you get that in your teens, through adolescence, you get that in your early 20s, and like hopefully there's this point in adult maturity where you start, to your point, like trying to remove them. You try and end up hopefully, and you die back at this innocence of a baby. And like this journey of life is like, you're born perfect and hopefully you can get back to dying perfect. In the middle, you pick up all this dirt and imperfections and things that we carry around that's not us. So to answer your question, what am I carrying around right now? Like, what am I trying to chip away to reveal myself? It's still other people's expectations. You know, I'm still sometimes conscious of like what other people would think or say, particularly from my like earlier days in my life. Less so people in my world now, but the beliefs and the fears are still there. I think my ego, like the worst part, not the worst, I don't want to judge it, but like a part of me wants, you often have something really bad happen, and then the feeling is like, I'm not enough. And then we create a story and a person to never feel that feeling again. So if it's like, I'm not enough, I need now to go be Superman, so then I'm like enough so I don't feel that feeling again. And I think if I can try and peel away these like beliefs of not being enough, not being loved, you know, when I was younger, I felt like I probably lost some like sense of feminine love. And then like I really needed it from girlfriends or like my partners and things like that. Because I felt like there was a moment in my childhood, like particularly when my parents got divorced, I felt like I lost some feminine love, and then I tried to like never feel like that again. So I became quite needy and attaching in relationships.
Were you conscious of that, or was it unconscious at the time?
It's unconscious at the time for sure. And I think you feel it, you don't want to feel it. So you come up with the kind of the character needed to overcome that feeling. And I'm trying to like feel the feelings more these days, and vulnerability, you know, stepping into that from a place of strength, not a place of weakness. So yeah, I think it's a journey. I'm happy with where I am compared to where I was 12 months ago and where I was 10 years ago. But I'm still not this pure baby innocent bliss yet.
Let me ask you, in your wife, it's Taylor, isn't it? What did you see in Taylor that is not just what you wanted, but what you needed?
I think Taylor's like a perfect teammate for me, and I for her. And we see the world very similarly. We're different people, but I think like sometimes she's just me in a woman's body and I'm her in a guy's body. I think she's the perfect balance of like, yeah, let's go do something crazy, but then like bring some practicality to it. she'll like bounce me out with like my, speediness in decision making. She'll like let it linger and think about it a bit more. I think as parents, like it complements each other really, really well. She'll like making sure Harvey's protected and safe and like physically okay. And I'll be like, oh, he'll be right. Like he needs to grow and he needs to learn it and figure it out himself. And I think the combination of those two, and it's quite traditional in terms of like how parents and how, fathers usually like parent and how mothers usually parent. And I felt I wanted someone, to be a teammate in life.
Yeah, I love that.
And I felt that's what she was.
That's beautiful. Man, I want to ask you about the product. We're here. I'm sipping on it. We've got it, the Hyro, which unbelievable marketing. I wonder, have you read Rory Sutherland's book, Alchemy?
No, I don't think so.
Mate, you'd love that.
I've been stumped on a book. It's the first time. And usually I know all the books. So, no, I haven't.
I feel like you'd really like it because Rory... Do you know Rory?
Yeah, I've seen him online.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's such an interesting guy. And in his book, he kind of tells a bunch of these different stories, of which many he's shared on podcasts, but kind of these... They're essentially irrational ideas because all the rational ones have been used and applied in business, right? So it's kind of exploring the territory of what could be possible. And he tells a story of, which I want to pick your brain about this with Shine. Red Bull particularly choosing the flavour to be a little bit different, maybe like a little bit below what the best standard of flavour could have been because of the story and the narrative behind the product being, hey, this gives you wings and it makes you superhuman, so it shouldn't really taste sweet. A
bit more medicinal tonic based.
Yeah. Shine's different from a product perspective. I quite enjoyed Shine. You guys sent me a bunch back in the day. But like, what are some of those irrational marketing ideas that you've applied to previous business and now this business in order to stand out in a market that is growing in interest?
Yeah. And I think for me, it's always looking at like, where's the market going at a macro trend level and making sure you're on at a macro trend level. But like within the category, how do you zig when everyone's zagging and how do you go the opposite direction? Yeah. I think right now in hydration and electrolytes, like everyone's running towards this like performance and athletic and science and clinical. And we're like, okay, let's go fun. Let's go playful. Let's go bold. Like no one's doing red. Like the obvious is the whites and the blues and the blacks and kind of hydration being water and that kind of world. We went fun and vibrant. And it's like just very different from anything else on the market. And then we do the same from, the content perspective. Like a lot of people went like hyper artistic, really polished, like high production kind of stuff. And once we do like bits and pieces of that, I think we kind of go like, how do we go raw, like behind the scenes? Like how do we build in public? How do we like bring our community on board? A lot of people went for like, let's just pay a bunch of influencers. We're like, no, how do we effectively get them to pay us, like invest in the company, and then they become like owners and operators and investors, and then now they're sharing the upside. And I think that was very different as well from like what most brands are doing. So generally we try and like pick the macro trend and then within it like go the opposite direction for everyone.
And you've secured, to mention the investors and the ambassadors, like big names like Quade Cooper, Daly Cherry-Evans, Sarah's Day. Like, these are all big personalities in their spaces. Was that a really hard task to find the people to secure them? I feel like athletes during their career, like, yes, they're looking for business opportunity because they understand their career is not always evergreen. But it is challenging to get them like at a time in their life when they're quite busy to be actively involved. Yeah.
Look, hard's the definition or perspective. I'd say it's not easy, but I think it's worth it. I think when you end up in a place where like there's so many brands, the barriers to entry to launch, it's like never easier. You can launch a $79 Shopify store tomorrow. You can AI design your packaging and logo mock-ups and product formulation. You can find a Google contract manufacturer. Like within 6 weeks, you probably have a product to market for like a couple grand. Like it's so easy to get to market these days. So I think how do you like immediately jump to the top of the pile? And for us, like we spent $100,000 on a website and brand before we even launched the product. And not many people do that. And I probably wouldn't give that advice to many people because you have to be pretty confident in backing yourself because you could waste a lot of money on something that nobody wants. I was very, very, very extremely confident like the category of hydration electrolytes was happening and going to happen in Australia. I'd seen it in the US, and I had backed my ability because I'd built a brand before with Shine to execute, to figure it out, to pivot when needed, to figure out marketing formulation, all the other things to scale supply chain. So I was like, if this is going to happen, someone's going to dominate this space. We need to put our best foot forward to dominate and be that person. So then it was like, okay, who is the top talent we can get on board to help us achieve that vision? So then the Sarah's Days and Quade Coopers and Daly Cherry-Evans, like those guys are the top of their fields, but then you go to them and your branding looks unreal and it like looks world class and your website looks unreal and it's like the best in Australia from a CPG, direct to consumer perspective. Then they go, okay, yeah, category makes sense. These guys look like they're probably going to be the number one. Let's jump on. But if you go into them with like nothing or like just an idea with no track record, nothing to show like physically for them to like feel the tangible chance of success, then I'd say it's very, very, very hard to get them on board. Like none of those guys have invested in brands outside themselves before. Like we're the first for them personally. And there's a lot of investors we have, which they haven't done previous investments, but I think we just developed something so good from a brand, product and category timing perspective as well.
I have to compliment you on the first thing I asked you when you showed me the product today was the sodium levels. And I found like you might find this interesting, you might not, but with my cystic fibrosis, for so much of my life before a recent drug that's improved my health, it's actually a fact that you lose roughly 3 times more salt in your sweat as a person with cystic fibrosis than you do as a regular healthy person without that defective genes. And so salt supplementation has always been a big part of my diet and something I've had to be really conscious of. I can remember as a kid going away to play state touch footy in Tamworth, 40-degree days in summer, and like fucking smacking chips at halftime on the sideline because I just needed salt. And so, but I found it's a fine line now that my loss of salt is at a more regular level due to a medication that's been transformative for my health. If I have like 1,000 milligrams of sodium, which you'll find in some products, it's too much. I feel like it's just not good for my stomach. It kind of nukes the gut. Yeah. And any endurance athlete knows that like you want your gut to be as good as it possibly can when you go out on a run. But I found a lot of the products, which is like your standard, your Powerades, Gatorades, those kind of things you find on the shelf in a grocery store, they're like, between 250 and 300 odd milligrams.
If you're lucky, yeah.
You're kind of that perfect happy medium for me, from my perspective, of around 500 milligrams. How conscious was that decision in having tested and tried other products as a runner and someone who plays in that field, and figuring out, hey, what's a perfect balance for me to feel and perform that will work for others?
I think you nailed it, which is it's such a personalized journey. Like even your journey now is different with medication than not. And hydration is, for people listening at home, it's such a personalized experience. Like everyone has a slightly different sweat rate. Everyone has a slightly different sodium within that sweat rate as well. And then what type of exercise you do, and you cardio versus gym versus sauna versus just caffeine. Are you having alcohol? Are you traveling? What's your lifestyle look like? How old are you? And then there's a genetic factor on all this stuff as well. So to kind of say this is the perfect formula for everyone is like, it's rubbish if someone's like trying to say like this is the world's best formulation from an electrolyte perspective. I'd recommend everyone experiment with their own levels. But for us as a brand perspective and trying to create our product, we looked at all the science. We have performance dietitians who've worked with Olympians and also have worked with like top CEOs and executives who aren't running ultra marathons, but are like trying to get through an ultra busy day. And we looked at the other brands in the market as well. And again, we saw what is the perfect daily optimal hydration amount. And then we looked at the ratios of sodium versus magnesium versus potassium and ensured that matched actually what you sweat out as well. A lot of brands just, for example, coconut water, like they have naturally a huge amount of potassium, actually quite low sodium, which is the inverse of how your body actually sweats it out, where you have, roughly speaking, you sweat double the amount of sodium than you do potassium. So we wanted to like ensure like the science. And another point was a lot of these brands that have been around for 20, 30 years, some longer, like were developed, one of the biggest sports drinks in the world was developed in the 60s. Hasn't changed the formula since the 60s. And it's like we know a lot more about science and performance and nutrition than what these people knew when, drinking beers and a pack of cigarettes was like a good pre-workout. And, they're proudly 40 years old, and it's great from a brand heritage perspective, but from a science perspective, it's like, well, what's today's science say? And we're obviously very much bleeding edge on that. So we picked the number that was like the sweet spot for most people from a daily perspective. And then if you need to have 2 because you're really active, or if you're really sweaty, then you can always have 2. But for a lot of people, they're not opening half a sachet and then pouring the rest out.
Yeah.
We didn't want to go under. And then most people need more salt, not less than they think.
I want to ask you, and we're sort of running out of time here, but the last thing I really want to touch on is I interviewed back in 2023 Will Ahmed, the founder and CEO of Whoop.
Oh, yeah.
And
Amazing.
one of the things that I asked him was, as the founder and CEO of a business that sells fitness wearables to track the optics of your health, how does he optimize his week? And one of the things he said to me is that I actually don't optimize my week as a healthy human being. I optimize it as a CEO, which he's like means that I have to compromise on a little sleep. At times I'm going to compromise on the quality of sleep I get because I'll be answering emails on a screen until late at night. He said, however, there are things that I've put in place to maximize my ability to do that and optimize my sleep and recovery. For you, like, what's the trade-off between maximizing your output as an entrepreneur and as an owner, founder of a business and having to manage people, but also trying to balance feeling the best as you possibly can as a human? Like, where do you draw the line?
For me, I've got 4 main like buckets of values, like health, wealth, love, and play. And I'll generally look at my week and then rate myself of like, how am I in health and wealth and in love and play? And then how I show up in all those things is more from a virtue perspective, which is like courage, discipline, vitality, and willpower, and wisdom, courage, discipline, vitality. So from like, how do I look at my week? It's probably from like my values as a life perspective and making sure all the buckets are kind of filled at the right levels over time. And then if like, for example, one week I'm like feeling low on health, it's like, okay, how do I like do a couple more recovery sessions? How do I make sure I'm up in my supplements and things like that, or increase in sleep? Or from like my wealth bucket, for example, is like feeling depleted. It's like, okay, how do I free up some space to go more and more on what the team needs? And so it needs to be like water, like very fluid, very flexible. I think the more we're rigid, like that's when things break and get burnt out. And it's like, I'm like, I like to start my day every day at 4:24. And I think that's like a consistent heartbeat that I always know I have.
Why 4:24?
Kobe Bryant's number was 24. And I love Kobe Bryant. He's an inspiration to me. And then 4 is my favorite number. And I feel like it's the right amount of time to get like 90 minutes of like quality deep work before the rest of the world wakes up, or you get a really good quality workout in. Mostly I'll do work in the mornings, not workout, because I feel when my brain's the sharpest, I want to be doing my best work. And later on in the day, when my brain's less sharp, I can kind of move my body and get some energy back. So I think for me, like a consistent wake and sleep time is probably like a big pillar. Try and get to bed like 9 ideally, and always wake up at 4:24. And then from that, it's like sleep, diet, exercise are like the 3 pillars. Like, is your sleep good? Are you eating properly? And under diet, I'd massively put hydration. 4 out of 5 Australians are dehydrated. Like, that's the stats.
Crazy, isn't it?
It's like, we know we should drink more water. We don't. Why? Because it's not very tasty. So most people think it's boring. Hence why, like, if you add some salt and sachets with flavor in it, then that's going to be massively beneficial to your water intake. And then with the electrolytes and salt, you're going to absorb a lot more water as well. So hydration's like such a simple hack for most people to improve like energy levels and gut health and nutrition. And you're gonna digest your food better if you're properly hydrated. And then skin, this is massive beauty industry out there, like just promising hydrated skin, like just drink some water with some salt, and like it solves a lot of the problems as well. And then lastly, exercise. Like, are you getting enough steps and movement and light exposure in for a day? So like that might like my fundamentals. What happens like from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. is like anyone's guess every day. It's completely different. But I try and stick to my principles.
So let me ask you, how often do you look back on the time that you've spent over the last, whether it be
Once a
week?
week.
Is it once a week?
Once a week.
You
I try and
review?
do it on a Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, and how often would you be willing to change things in order to...
Weekly.
Okay.
Yeah. So like my values won't shift until maybe every like 2, 3, 4 years, like until I've had like a really big lesson in life and learning that I know something in my gut's not true anymore. Or I've read some piece of philosophical work that's kind of like changed my world perspective, or I've taken some mushrooms and figured out the meaning of life or something. But yeah, I'll reflect weekly and then like readjust in the micro as often as I can. because like what's happening at home, what we're doing at the office, how Harvey's going, what's happening in Taylor's world. Like I love that Taylor's a co-founder in Hyro as well. Like we get to be on this journey together. So sometimes it might be family time, but it's also kind of work time as well. And we get a bit of both.
Mate, I love that.
She doesn't love it as much sometimes, but I definitely do.
Mate, it's been so much fun talking to you. We're running out of time, so I've got to get you out of here. But, mate, I want to thank you for your amazing gift today. You've given me a bunch of product, which I'm excited to use. It's actually, I found out about Hyro through my partner, Soph, who was seeing a bunch of your content on social. And she's like, hey, this brand looks like they're doing really cool stuff. So it's exciting to sit down and chat with you today and hear about it. But more exciting for me to see the person behind it, which I think for me in terms of, you know, appreciating a brand and their growth and wanting to see someone win, if you understand the people behind it, I think it really helps.
100%. Mate, thank you so much. Thoughtful questions and good chats, bro.
My pleasure. Cheers, brother.